On World's Edge, there exists a POI. It is known as a hot drop, an extremely popular and frequent drop spot among players of Apex Legends, leading to many chaotic multi-team fights within its borders. While we may credit Skulltown as being the first ever hot drop, when this POI was introduced all the way back in Season 3, it immediately asserted itself as the quintessential hot drop, arguably overtaking Skulltown in terms of popularity, and certainly in terms of name recognition. Its reputation within the game so far precedes it, that if it weren't for the title of this video, you would have likely already known what POI I was talking about only a few short seconds into the video. How's it going, everybody? I'm GroudOnGo, and welcome back to 100 Drops of Apex Legends, the series where I drop all 100 POIs in the game, on all 5 maps, 100 times each, in a row. This is episode 8, and today we'll be taking a look at our third World's Edge POI. As World's Edge was introduced in Season 3, I thought it was only fitting for us to choose possibly the most well-known, famous, and divisive POIs across all 5 of Apex's maps to feature today. I dropped Fragment East 100 times in a row. This is what I learned. Clippers. 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 Now, for those new to the series, over the course of each game of my 100 drops, I keep a running total of my kills, wins, and damage for each game in an Excel sheet on my laptop next to my setup. Once all of my drops are complete, we compare these data points to the other POIs we've dropped 100 times so far, with the end goal of seeing how my performance at each compare to one another. Now, with the stage set and the rules and object of the series defined, let's take a deep dive into the POI itself, and look at its history, composition, and some baseline strategies for dropping here. This is the POI Breakdown for Fragment East.
Let's go, baby! Lifeline! Lifeline! Where's me? Lifeline, use! Where's Lifeline?
Let's begin with the history of Fragment. As many of my fellow OG Apex players will probably know, Fragment used to go by a different name when it made its Apex debut alongside the entire World's Edge map in Season 3, Capital City. But it didn't exist in this form for long. The very next season it was split into 2 by the addition of the Hammond Corporation's Planet Harvester, turning Fragment East into much of what we know it being today. I think I should also mention that Fragment East's twin, Fragment West, was also created at this time in Season 4, but was recently replaced by the Monument POI with Season 18's launch. If you want to watch the 100 Drops episode on that POI, it'll be in the annotation at the top of your screen. Just be aware that it, and also the very first episode of the series, Estates, are formatted more as documentation of all 100 drops, rather than the style of video I make now. But back to Fragment East. Its reputation as the hottest drop in the entire game leads it to being either loved or hated, depending on who within the Apex community you're talking to. But whether you drop here every game, or avoid the place like the plague, the fact of the matter is you're almost certainly going to end up here at some point in your games on World's Edge. So let's first go into the POI's structure, so we know how to best play engagements here. I break Frag East into 5 zones, and we'll talk a little bit about each right now. First, there's the most important zone, Streamer Building. This multi-level structure is a fan favorite for hot dropping amongst some of the most mechanically skilled players in the game, who can utilize the advanced movement techniques the zipline contained within offers to their advantage to do things like this. Not only that, but the roof of the building is the most powerful position in all of the POI, being ultimate height, only rivaled by the next zone I'm about to talk about. The second highest priority zone is Train Station. This 2-level building in the center of the POI isn't as popular an initial drop spot as Streamer, but due to its central location, a lot of fights tend to play out here. And it's worth noting that while the building itself is 2 levels, the glass roof on top of the station can be accessed by movement legends or redeploy towers, putting its height on par with that of Streamer, albeit with less cover. The third zone in order of importance to understand is Diner, the long flat building at the back of the POI. Another popular landing spot, Diner lacks the loot of Streamer or even Train, but has favorable position at the edge of the city, allowing for a quick dip to No Name to the east in case things go south. The final 2 zones are these 2 groups of 2 buildings side by side, and the respawn beacon on the north edge of the POI. The grouped buildings are great places I like to land, with a good amount of floor loot and security of 4 walls around you to allow for defensive plays if necessary. And the respawn beacon is actually my favorite underrated spot to drop at, as there is hardly ever a 50-50 for the loot located there. Now, taking into consideration all of this information, where should you drop if you want to see the most success at this POI? Well, you kind of have to play it by ear. Depending on the dropship angle, how good of a drop you have, and how many teams you see dropping here, many different drop spots can offer you a varying level of advantage in the initial skirmish. For this reason, I find it hard to recommend just one spot, but here's a couple of options. For seasoned hot droppers, Streamer will have the most consistent immediate kill opportunity. A safer, more consistent drop would be either train station or one of the 2 tower buildings. But just remember, the most important thing when choosing a drop spot is to land somewhere where you're guaranteed a gun, because then you at least always give yourself a fighting chance no matter how bad your positioning is. But that's just about everything you need to know about the history of and composition of Fragment East. Let's get into the 100 drops themselves, where we'll be highlighting certain in-game scenarios that happen to me during my games that you can learn from to better perform in and around this POI.
So high potential. Ah! 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 What the fuck, dude?
Drop 14 has an example of probably the most important factor in winning gunfights in all of Apex Legends: applying pressure. If you take one thing away from this video, let it be this. After the initial knock on this other team we're engaging, notice how every single input I make is towards the enemy team, with the goal of closing the gap between us as fast as possible to take advantage of the 3v2 scenario we've created. It results in a quick cleanup, and thus, little chance for an opportunistic third team to join the fray.
Nice. Yeah.
In game 18, I discovered a pretty hilarious heal spot for Horizon. I'm not sure how well this would work out as a consistent strategy, but I got away with it here, so I figured I'd throw it in.
Oh, I'm looking at that, by the way. Guys, how long do you think it'll take for somebody to notice that I'm up here? Alright, we got guys over here. I'll be your spotter. Here, Press, I'll be your spotter, okay? Got guys over here. You got, like, guys in this building. Yeah, Red's your buddy. You're chilling.
Jumping ahead a little, let's take a look at this fight from drop number 90. We're looking to third these 2 teams fighting each other in Twin Towers. I start off with a cheeky knock through the window, and again, note the pace with which I play. Every second of this fight I'm moving with purpose, applying pressure to a situation I know is advantageous to me, that being 2 teams distracted by one another, and an already established advantage with my initial knock.
Coming. All dead.
Finally, to round out the gameplay section, let's take a look at some jumps, spots, and angles that you should be aware of, so the next time you find yourself in Fragment, you can get the jump on your enemies.
Tell me again. Right here. What? Bro, go back. What the f are you doing?
I didn't see that fence.
Jesus Christ.
Bro, I'm literally, it's my kryptonite.
To conclude this recap of my 100 fragment drops, let's take a look at the stats I tracked across my games and see what stories they might tell us. As promised in the beginning of the video, here are my per game averages for this season, Season 17, that we'll be comparing my 100 drops to. Over my 100 games in a row dropping Fragment, I averaged only 1.79 kills per game compared to my seasonal average of 1.92. My damage wasn't much better, being about 521 compared to 582. And my win rate had the worst comparison of all. I won 5 out of my 100 Fragment games, when I'm averaging about a 7% win rate seasonally. So by all means, this should be an open and shut case, right? Fragment is a bad POI. We're forgetting one very important stat. A stat that all of us Apex players probably value more than any other, even if we don't know it. Kills, damage, and win rate are all meaningful. But what about the stat that means the most to us, not just as gamers, but as human beings, the people in front of the screen? That's right, I'm talking about time. For 99% of us Apex enthusiasts who don't have the luxury of being able to play anytime we like, and having other obligations that take up our precious waking hours like family, IRL friends, school, or a full-time job, Fragment is where it's at, man. Hear me out. Nowhere else in the game will you see more kill opportunities than Fragment East. Could I have dropped somewhere like Overlook 100 times, looted, rotated to zone early, picking up a consistent 2 to 4 kills a game, and had better per game stats? Yes, but you have to take into consideration all of that real world time spent looting, rotating, and dying after dropping Overlook. Because yes, even playing slow, you won't win every game you play. With real world time factored into the equation, I'm taking a Fragment drop over that Overlook drop every time. I'll have far more kills, far more fun testing my metal in complex gunfights, and far more opportunities for pop-off games in an hour of dropping Fragment compared to that same hour spent dropping Overlook. And before you mention grinding ranked mode, currently if you spend enough time AFKing in a tree you'll hit Masters. So any and all ranked arguments against a Fragment drop I'll take with a grain of salt. If you're hard grinding your win rate and your win rate only, then yes, dropping cold and playing zone will be your preferred strategy. But for every other goal in the game you may have, whether it be kill grinding, improving your mechanics, or just getting into crazy ass shenanigans and having fun with your friends,
God, you guys make me so horny when you play like this.
dropping Fragment is where it's at. At least, that's my perspective. Let me know what you think of Fragment in the comments. Maybe you'll change my mind. And if you learned something today, or felt like this was 15 minutes of your time well spent, drop a like on the video, and subscribe for the next 91 POIs. Here's a link to the playlist of the POIs I've done so far, and also, I stream all of my drops over on Twitch, so come join the 100 Drops community. But until next time, I'm Grout on Go, and this has been 100 Drops of Fragment East. Thanks for watching.